a polarizing election, a pandemic, and navigating life through it all as a teenager. This is the Phoenix Power Podcast PM edition, where our student voices are heard. Let's get started. We are 48 hours just about in on waiting on election returns in what is a unprecedented presidential election. So first of all, as teenagers, are you all interested in the election of who will be our next president? Are you following it? Yay or nay? What says you?
I guess I'll start out. I have been. I normally am not super involved in politics. I've been trying to educate myself more and more, especially with this upcoming election that's been going on. Since there's been a lot of drama and controversy around it, it's kind of made me a little bit more interested since everyone around me seems to be talking about it. So I've definitely been following it a lot more than I have the past elections that I've been here for.
Aiden Urbane, are you following it? Are you interested in it?
I'm not. It doesn't really interest me that much, but it'd probably be a good idea to learn more about it.
So Aiden, on that note, because I definitely think you are not alone for sure. What about it makes you not interested? Is it because you've heard how crazy it is this year, or is it because you're a teenager and you haven't voted yet, or what makes you lean that way of being not as interested?
Probably because there's a lot of drama about it and stuff, and I kind of like to stay away from all that.
Okay, yeah, I think even those of us who have been following it have had to step. Me, for example, I was watching on Tuesday night, even though I knew there wasn't going to be, we weren't going to know. But I watched till like 1 a.m. And then yesterday, I just kind of took a break. I would pop in occasionally, just, turn the TV on real fast or check on the internet. But I had to step away because I'm like, I just going round and round in circles. So I think a lot of us are feeling that way. Urbane, what about you? You bring a very nice, unique perspective to this since you weren't born in America, but you came to America. So what are your thoughts as you watch this process?
Wait, who, me?
Yeah.
I'm kind of I just think I wasn't into politics so much, but I think a lot of more teens are more interested this year. And I actually don't know who to pick. I don't know.
So what do you, go ahead if you were going to say something else.
I wasn't going to say something else.
Well, what I wonder is even it seems like the majority are kind of not real interested, but, Caitlin brought up, but maybe I should be. Because you all are getting, you'll be voting in the next election. And I think sometimes when we're younger, we might not think the issues affect us. But sometimes they do in trickle down ways. And then in other ways, you might be observing, though, your family members who are more engaged because maybe there's certain issues that they are following, that they are concerned about. So have you noticed that the election is impacting the adults in your life around you?
Most definitely. My stepdad is super into politics. So every time I turn on the TV or every time I come home from work, it's always the news turned up to 50 all the time, him talking on the phone to his brother about whatever's going on or something that he doesn't like and all that stuff. So I hear about it all the time. My mom is tired of it. She's ready for this to be over so she doesn't have to hear about it all the time.
Yes, I think that family dynamic is also something that we would see if we peeked into many households. What do you all think, looking ahead at your future self, your voting self, as you observe what people are caring about now, what do you think will be a big issue for you? Because, I mean, whoever's elected, be it our president getting a second term or our former vice president becoming president, you know, they're going to serve a 4-year term. That's going to put you all as in the age of young adults. I mean, you're right there. You are a young adult, but you're about ready to be independent young adults. So what do you think issues are going to impact your life that you will be passionate about?
I think for me personally, it's climate change and global warming and everything like that. That's been a huge debate between both presidents on what sort of protocol or if they even believe in it at all. Personally, I believe that it's real. And so having a president that believes the same way that I do that it is an actual problem that needs to be addressed is important to me, especially since it's going to occur in my lifetime and my children's lifetime. I feel like it's an issue that we need to address immediately, as like Biden has talked about and everything like that.
Why is it important to you?
I think it's important because we have to think about the lives that it's going to affect and the lasting impact it's going to have on our world, because we only have one planet. And if we, you know, don't take proper precautions or we don't listen to scientific evidence and data that has been reported, we only have a limited amount of time to where we can address this issue. So if we just play around and act like it's not a big deal now, or we wait for actual detrimental changes that are going to happen, it's going to be a bit too late.
Aiden, what issues are of importance to you?
I honestly don't know.
You know what? Again, I feel like you're being the voice of many teenagers. I think sometimes you don't. Like, you really don't. At your age, it's just, you're living in the now, which is a very good thing. And, you know, you just haven't stopped yet, because sometimes we don't know what issues impact us until we're faced with something where it forces us to think, wait a minute, that impacts me. I have an opinion on that. So I think that's absolutely normal, for sure. Urbane, what about you? Are you kind of in that boat, or is there anything that you foresee as something that's an issue that impacts you?
For me, like, I don't have anything that's impacts me. I don't have anything.
Do you foresee any issues that might be affecting you as you become an adult, based upon maybe what you see in your own family or people around you?
No.
Oh, see?
Mm-hmm.
Two people right there. Absolutely. I think you are being the voice of many, many teenagers. So I'd like to ask this, just for giggles. What's your prediction as far as when, not who, but when we will have an official, here's who your next president is going to be? What are y'all's predictions based upon either those of you who've been watching, what you've watched, or what you're hearing from your parents or anything around you? What are your thoughts?
I think that we might get a good idea by tomorrow, because a lot of the states that we're waiting on are in that high percentage of like 80 to higher 90% reported. So I think like the bigger states, like I think that let's see, it's either Arizona or Nevada that's getting kind of close. Same with Pennsylvania, which is like a big one that has like 20.
Yeah. All right, so we got a Friday from Caitlin. Urbane, what's your prediction? When do you think we'll know?
for now, like I can predict anything. I don't have like any prediction for now. Like I'm not like sure right now. I'm just waiting
What?
for like whatever happens will happen.
Watching and waiting, right? No
Yep.
telling. Aiden,
Mm-hmm.
do you have any ideas when you think?
No, I really don't.
Seems like a lot of people I'm hearing agree Friday. But then again, I mean, like today hearing the Nevada at lunch break saying that it'll be the 12th. I think I feel like by tomorrow too, I think we will have a pretty good, like 98% sure it's this one. But then of course they'll have to finalize it and all that, and that will take days. But until then, as they say, patience is a virtue, right? All right, we're going to take a short break, and then when we return, we're going to talk about the other big issue of concern these days, and that is the pandemic and how it's impacting our teenagers. Stay with us.
I came to Eastside because I wanted to do more of film and then have more classes for me to pursue at my home school. So I was given the opportunity to come to Eastside. Benefits from being at Eastside, you get to explore more of the programs like After Effects, Photoshop, and iMovie and Final Cut Pro that allows you to do more than the programs that they have at my home school. Just placement. And my favorite thing about Eastside is that I get to work with a group that's in my class. Like everybody, no one's left out. Everybody actually has to participate. It's pretty fun.
Did you learn something?
What sets Eastside apart from my home school is that I get to work with a great teacher who has actually been in the field and worked with a news station, and she's come here to help us, and so that's great. I would encourage other students to attend Eastside because it just opens up so many opportunities for you to learn and just gain knowledge from the programs and the people here. It's just amazing.
Kentucky is like many states across our nation that is seeing a surge in the COVID numbers, that they are increasing. And in Kentucky, we've actually been setting many new daily highs since this all started. And right now we've got more than 113,000 people who have tested positive, and sadly, more than 1,500 deaths in our state. So with the surge, that has prompted Governor Beshear to ask that people kind of step back and go back to the way we were in the beginning, where employers, if they're allowed to have the ability, let your employees work at home. Government offices operate virtually where they're able to. Reduce that in-person shopping, eating out, mandatory masks, and rescheduling of public events. We saw a lot of people had weddings they had to postpone. And in summary, just all non-essential things, let's not do them. That's what he is asking the people of our state to do. So with that, I ask you all, what is it like to be a teenager during the pandemic? A lot of times we look at you all as so young and vibrant and resilient, but I mean, this is unprecedented for anyone. So what do you, what is your basic thing that if you could tell an adult how it's impacting you, what would you say? What would you want them to know? What are you feeling?
I would say it's kind of like a hopeless feeling that a lot of us are experiencing, I would say, because there's so much unknown of like what's going on and what's going to happen, and if this is going to go on long term or if it's going to be done in a couple months. I think it's just the fear of the unknown and having to, you know, not see friends and the whole going to school and having that regular schedule that we've had our entire lives just kind of be stripped away from us out of fear of like hurting those around us, that if we bring it home from school or from work, that it could affect our parents and all that. It's a lot of uncertainty.
So you use the word hopeless. Do you think that would surprise a lot of adults that, young, young, healthy teenager would have a feeling of hopelessness? Do you think adults assume that all is well with you all?
I think so sometimes. I don't think that some adults realize the extent of being kind of like stripped away from our young like childhood can be, because it's like I feel like high school and like our young adulthood is the time to have fun and hang out with friends and do things that we want to do. And with everything going on, it's kind of restricted, and we have to think about if it's actually safe or not to go out to the movies. Like, yes, they're open, but is it really the smartest idea for me to go with a big group of my friends and have a good time when there could be negative consequences in the end? So it's just a matter of like having to overthink everything now and really be like, is it really worth it?
Yeah. What about the rest of you? What would you, if there's one thing that you could say to adults about how this is impacting you all as teenagers, what would you tell them, Aiden or Urbane?
I think that a lot of us feel kind of alone because it's not like we can go see anybody or just like go hang out. We have to be like, is this safe? Can we do this?
Yeah, alone. I mean, that's the word, Caitlin said hopeless. You've used the word alone. I feel like that some adults might be like, they're handling this great. They're on their phones anyway. That's how they normally communicate. This is probably easier for them. But I feel like it's bringing more attention to just how much, even though we see everyone, and adults do too, but see y'all have grown up with the technology. I think it's showing you how much you really do need each other as far as that in-person contact, that how really important that is. That's Aiden, a great point. Alone, it makes you feel alone. Urbane, what about you? What would you want adults to know about how this is making you feel or how you're handling it?
To me, like it's kind of like tough. It's kind of like, I don't know how to say it, but it has been like tough for many people. Like a tough year, yeah.
So with that, Urbane, then how do you navigate that? Because to me, one thing that I do think is going to come of this is, even though it's sad that you all at such a young age are having to face, I mean, normally you don't face, well, even adults, we've never had this much of a challenge, but that you all are having to navigate something so tough and that has all those feelings that are attached with it. I firmly believe that you all are going to come out of this much stronger. And as you become adults, you're going to be able to, you're like, oh, those normal adult problems. Heck, I was a teenager and I got through that pandemic and that virtual school. So what do you think, if you can step back for a minute and look at the skills that you're learning, even though it might not be fun, it might not be fun skills, but what skills are you learning from this that you think will make you more adaptable or stronger adults?
I think one of the skill we're learning is like staying positive, like it's kind of preparing us to be ready in maybe another tough time. Like
Yeah.
not giving up. Yeah.
Being positive. I love that because, boy, that's a challenge some days, isn't it? But looking on the bright side, looking that there's light at the end of the tunnel. We don't know when it is. I read a great book years ago called In the Meantime, and the author, it was more about people and relationships, but I think you can apply it to anything. And she talked about when we're living in the meantime, being that in between stage. So right now, can't go out. It's not forever, but it's the meantime. People lose their jobs, living in the meantime. Not going to be forever, but the meantime. When you're living in limbo, um, boy, it's easy to get down, but if you can just focus on the positive. So that's great, Urbane. That's a great skill to learn. And it's something you can use your whole adult life. What other skills are y'all learning that you think you'll be better people on the end of this?
I think that it's kind of helping us to be more uh, sympathetic to one another. Um, when Aiden brought up the whole idea of like loneliness throughout this whole pandemic, I feel like I've seen a lot of support for other people on social media, and that is like one of the biggest things that helps us connect with one another is the technology that we're surrounded by all the time, and we're able to be there for one another as best as we can, and understand one another because we're going through the same things. I mean, we're all experiencing this pandemic, especially as young adults who are having to stay at home, and the loneliness of being on your computer for a school day. We can all relate on those same issues and try and bring support to one another.
Great points. All of that. Aiden, what about you? Any skills you think that you're picking up through this?
I definitely agree with Caitlin. I don't really know what else to say.
That quite all right. Quite all right. With that, I want to end. I always love to end on a positive note. So, and we've talked about this in the past, but we've talked about the right now the sadness and the loneliness and the isolation. But again, and talk about Urbane. Let's look on the positive side. So, right now more than ever, what makes you happy? What brings you happiness right now?
The fact that we have technology so we can still get in touch with family and friends.
Oh my God, Aiden, I hadn't even thought of that, but you know what? What if it was like that 1918 pandemic? Can you imagine if we were going through this and we didn't have to? I didn't even think of that, Aiden, because it's become so second nature. But wow, what a great way to think, the very thing that we're kind of tired of, thank goodness we have it because we can still reach up. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Gosh, can you imagine if we didn't have this? Whew, don't want to think about that. Urbane, what makes you happy?
What makes me happy like during this time is that's like when we were in school, like we couldn't have time to settle down, like get to focus more or like build something that we want to build. Like let me just say like settling up, and during this time we got to know each other. We got to go through tough time together, and I believe that will come out strong after the pandemic.
Yes, and I like that it brings you happiness that we can join together like this even. Caitlin, what brings you happiness?
I think what brings me happiness throughout this whole crazy pandemic is that it's giving everyone an opportunity to kind of look within and work on themselves. because especially if you're by yourself a lot, you have a lot of time to be with your thoughts and think about things that you want to work on, and kind of can be like a way of self-discovery, spending time with yourself instead of just being like go 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 within the same routine. You have a lot of alone time.
Nice. And I've always said this because I'm an only child. So, I'm good at being alone. I used to entertain myself, when I couldn't have friends over, I would play alone. But I recognize that some people, it's been a struggle to have that much alone time. But I think that's great that you recognize, oh, this could be a time of self-discovery, and maybe learn something and learn to be alone, and that there actually can be some joy within that. So I think that's great. I think it's great that you all can recognize that there's still ways to find happiness. I'd like to thank Caitlin Bryant, Urbane Kashira, and Aiden Rayburn for sharing their perspective. The conversation will continue next time on the Phoenix Power Podcast, PM edition. Higher Up, the royalty-free theme music is courtesy of Silver Sand Studios. I'm Michelle Roush. Thank you for listening.